Hi, my name is Arvelyn Hill, and this is Plants of Liberation, a series where I interview different leaders in the plant world, from herbalism to urban gardening to farming, hearing about the important ways they use plants to liberate themselves. Today, we're currently in the native plant garden at the New York Botanical Garden, and I'm here with DK Kinard. Hi.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Can you share your name and your pronouns, and how would you title the work that you do?
I am DK. I am she, her, and I'm the friendly neighborhood gardener. And it's in the name. I'm friendly. I'm a neighborhood gardener.
I love that. What is a early memory that you have with plants as a child?
My earliest memory of plants is very intrinsically intertwined with me being very severely allergic and very severely asthmatic. So my mom had a lot of plants in our home, literally to just and metaphorically breathe life and oxygen into my life and into my lungs. I remember being as young as 5 and my mom having plants in every single room of our 1-bedroom apartment that she, my sister, and I lived in. And I inherited many of those plants when she transitioned. I still have them, and they are now in every single room of my apartment. So I've been with plants and connected to horticulture and just green space, even if just at home, for a very long time.
And where's home for you?
I am intergenerationally and proudly from Washington Heights.
Oh, yes, native New Yorker.
Yes, native New Yorker, almost like a unicorn.
Yeah, it is in this day and age.
Yes.
But I love that she made sure to always have plants around you, surrounding you.
Yes.
And I think that's such a common thing for New York youth. Asthma is very high, and having access to fresh air is needed.
Right.
And so I love that that was always a part of your upbringing and kind of
Right.
sparked your early interests.
Right. It was important because I don't think that people really think of plant life and gardens and farms in New York. I think they think as the urban jungle, as New York is often referred to. I don't think they think this as an epicenter of plant life, and clearly it is.
It truly is. And I'm so excited to hear about all of the amazing work that you do with plants. You work at Grow NYC.
I do.
You're also an avid community gardener.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about the different roles you share
Absolutely.
and what you do with plants?
Absolutely. I am the proud co-founder of the Gardens at NYCHA program with Grow NYC, where my garden partner and I have created and curated a program with and for public housing residents. And it's very important that I say with and for, because we are all teachers in this space, and we are growing culturally relevant foods that not only tap into our physical and mental holistic well-being, but tap into our DNA. I'm doing the exact same thing, this time on the International Rescue Committee side, known as the IRC, and I help facilitate an amazing program called New Roots. We are New Roots Community Farm Bronx, and we are New Roots Community Garden in Queens. And in both spaces, we are returning agency to the people and to the land. I could not ask for a better way to serve community and the dream of just getting to be on the land. The outdoors is my office, but most importantly, getting to grow with community, to return to our ancestral recipes, to return to our ancestral herbalism, and to be doing urban agriculture that is making us well and recognizing us as people and recognizing our culture.
It's important work.
It's
so
important
beautiful.
work.
And I mean, I know that it's like, people must think, oh, you just bring a garden and you go from there. But I'm sure we both know it's way more complicated than that, especially in terms of like the community aspect. Like what are some of the ways in which you not just bring in community as participants, but also agents of the space?
Sure. I say often, truthfully speaking, that any one person can plant a seed. It takes people to sustain a green space or a garden. So the lion's share, I don't even want to call it work. That feels disrespectful because I love what I do. The lion's share of my service is helping to build people. When you build people, you grow community. And when you have community, you have a garden.
Mm.
So the lion's share of my service is green skills education, community engagement, and community organizing. And out of all of that, we happen to get gardens. And we
Okay.
happen to get spaces where people can express themselves through art. They can build mental health and they can grow food that's important to us and for us, not just from a metaphysical or metaphorical standpoint, but also from a food injustice and a food insecurity standpoint. I'm not a stranger to food insecurity at all in my youth and in my adulthood. I came from a single parent who had to make very difficult choices between food, rent, and medication, and not having access to food that she knew that would make me well, but access only to food that made me sicker and that landed me in the doctor's office. So it became my mission for there not to have to be another DK with a single parent who did the best that she could, but was very torn between what was accessible and available. So, along with my service, it is always my mission to make sure that community members have fresh, accessible food, not just that they can technically eat, but that they actually want
Yeah.
and that they can connect to culturally, physically, mentally, spiritually, and what have you.
And is there a way that they come in to harvest on their own? Is it pre-harvested?
Sure.
Or is it more educational?
Sure.
Like if people were to come, or I guess they can't come because it's specifically for NYCHA housing members to access those spaces.
Right.
But for something like the farms that you're a part of, the community gardens,
Right.
is it open to engage in, or is it
Sure.
really
Sure.
you have to be a part of a specific
Sure.
group?
So every space that I am humbled and proud to serve is not just for any one genre of people, it is for all community.
Mm-hmm.
So anyone can come to any of our gardens at NYCHA spaces. Anyone can come to New Roots Community Farm. Anyone can come to New Roots Community Garden and other spaces that I serve. And it's a little bit of everything that you said. It's the person who paces back and forth for 45 minutes that I've said hello to twice and checked on to see, hey, is this your first time? Would you like some water? Would you like to come in? But you just need to give them time until they do. It's the person who comes to volunteer with us, so has a certain skill set of education and knows what to do, and they're fine, but they just need to be checked on every once in a while. It's the person who is asking, can you harvest for me? Because I'm not really well versed in this, but I also don't really have the time, but I'm going to support the space in another way through marketing and messaging and just coming by to say hello. So we get a hodgepodge of people every day from every stretch internationally. And it's amazing. It's really great to just be of service in this way, but it's also great to see how, as different as we are, we're really not, because we all eat.
Yeah.
And I have found that many of us are eating the same thing. We're just calling it something different.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, I can't wait to see the spaces.
Yes,
it sounds
yes,
amazing.
yes. You are welcome anytime.
And I know I'm thinking about it, like where we're at in terms of just like being a Black land worker or a land steward. You know, what makes you called to this work right now in this moment? Like what feels most vital right now? It's like I don't know if you call yourself a land steward, but I see you as a land steward.
I do. And not
yeah.
only am I a land steward, I'm an everyday land steward.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important to say. I'm an everyday land steward that stays connected at all times to the people.
Yeah.
I'm that person who community members are telling what they like. I'm that person who they are absolutely telling me what they don't like. And I'm so thankful to be held in community as I also build community. Before we sat down, you and I were talking about some of my great mentors who take the time and the care to make sure that I'm the person that I need to be since I'm always in community and representing community.
Yeah.
And that's what brings me to my answer. Representation.
Mm.
Representation matters. I need to see people that look like me. I need to see people eating things that, again, represent their history, their culture. And I want to be a part of making sure that we have that. Not just that they have it, that we have it.
Yeah.
And that we get to showcase our foods and our history as mainstream, as global, and not just a one-off or an exception.
I think that also like ties with my next question about Plants of Liberation, which is the name of this
Yes.
series.
Yes.
And so I would love to just hear about the ways in which, I mean, you've already talked about it, but in other
Sure.
ways, the ways in which
Sure.
plants have liberated you, or have you helped others liberate
Sure.
themselves with plants?
Plants liberate me every day because they contribute to my mental and physical well-being. Plants liberate me because they teach me something every day, and they make connections, not just in the plant world, but to my life. Plants liberate me by teaching me characteristics of who and how I want to be as a woman, as a daughter, as a sister, as an aunt, as a friend. And they show me the patience, they show me the joy, they show me the determination, but above all things, they show me the freedom that I have to be doing this service and to be joyful about it. I love that Plants as Liberation also, again, allow me the opportunity to not only identify agency, but return it. And that's key because many community members that I work with side by side and that I grow with, they don't know that it's theirs. This is for you. This is yours. You can also be liberated by growing.
Yeah.
So it's sharing even what liberation is and how we do that by planting foods that help us to be mentally and physically and holistically well, but bring us joy and also educate in the community.
And do you have like maybe like a nugget or a story of like a situation where there was someone who maybe was resistant to trying something
Sure.
or being in the garden
Sure.
and you were able to like bring them in and kind of see that evolution?
Sure. New community members to many of the green spaces that I steward in, not necessarily new to the neighborhood or community, they're very hesitant, especially in the public housing spaces, because they can't imagine that an actual food producing garden is possible in New York City, and that it's possible when their space has been so counted out. That producing fresh, affordable, free produce is possible in spaces that are termed misrepresented, underserved, and low income. So oftentimes when we're welcoming new community members to the physical garden, they really do stand on the perimeter because they can't believe it. And they're also just not familiar with either their own cultural history or just food. Also, too, oftentimes they may not know what to do with the food. So they can be very hesitant. So for me, it's about being consistent. It's about building trust. I have in my mind a community resident who I love. She lives on the 12th floor, and she didn't come down to the garden easily all the first season, but she would yell at me from the 12th floor through her window. And I would look up,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't yell, but I would speak very loudly using my outside voice to answer her.
Yeah.
And it was building trust, it was building consistency. And then finally last season, she came down, and now she comes every week. And she doesn't put her hands in the soil, but let me tell you, Arvelyn, it's like she was with me when I did the crop plan.
Wow.
She knows what is in every bed. She can go to every bed of which she would like for me to harvest for her. And when we welcome guests, it's almost like she's got a supermarket list in her mind that she can say, DK, we're out of this, we're out of this. And I'll say, okay, we have to start again. And she'll go, start again. And we'll both bust out laughing. And I'll say, yes, it's not a supermarket. We have to start from seed. But she is one of many people who, once we were able to establish trust, once we were able to establish consistency, once we were able to tap into her ancestral stories and things that just she could recall that made her feel happy and made her feel safe and made her feel seen and heard, which all made her feel liberated, it kind of loosened the chains of her wanting to come into the space. And I find that that's the case of many of the constituents and the community members that I tend to the land with.
I love that. Yeah, that's such a beautiful way to just meet people where they're at.
Right.
Meet people where they're at. I think a lot of times when it comes to changing people's relationship with food, there's like this way people kind of try to shove it down their throat or come in and be like, we know everything, and just, you know, and that doesn't work, and it feels offensive.
It doesn't.
And so to really, I love that example of just really meeting people where they're at and at their own time. And if they never want to actually touch the soil, that's okay. There's other ways that you can be engaged in a space that is what's comfortable for them. And maybe one day she will. And that's also beautiful too.
And it's also important to note, we are eating many of the same things, but we are also not. And that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm a farmer, I'm a gardener. I don't like everything in the garden. And that's okay too. I don't have to eat it just because it's there, or because a societal framework that I didn't build just says it's good for me. My body tells me what's good for me. My palate tells me what's good for me. My cultural upbringing tells me what's good for me. And as a community member, I also have the agency to shape what I know is health-centered for me. I have the agency to contribute to what is going to make me well, versus following a traditional diet that was never designed for me. And that's something that we talk about in the green spaces as well, as liberation. You have the agency and ability to frame in your mind what will make you well. And it's not a one size fits all. And that's okay. It's okay that maybe for one person, kale is what works for them nutritionally, but plantains work nutritionally for someone else, as long as there's balance and as long as there's intention. It's okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's just figuring out what people like,
right?
What tastes good. It's all about, I think, pleasure as well too. We don't want this to be something that is, uncomfortable, or food should taste good. It should be what you want to eat. And so I love that. That's such a formational part of the work that you do. It's really, really cool.
Arvelyn, food should make you happy.
Exactly. Yeah.
It should bring you joy.
Yeah.
It should make you feel excited. It should teach you something. It should be something that you look forward to. That's not a chore. It's a blessing. And I personally want people to recognize it as that.
Mm-hmm. And where do you see yourself? Is this like the work that you want to continue doing? Do you see, more gardens growing kind of when you look at your life in 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Where do you want to be?
I will be doing gardening and urban agricultural work forever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm even going to do it when I come back in my next life.
Yes.
My name is still going to be DK. And I'm still going to be a farmer and gardener in some capacity. Although my interests are growing and expanding. I had a wonderful, motivating conversation with a librarian. And as I speak to community members about all the possibilities in urban agriculture, we don't all have to have our hands in the soil. We need marketers. We need financial advisors. We need computer and tech specialists. She really opened my mind that when it comes to food and agriculture, we also need librarians.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that because it's just an amazing part of education. And maybe that's where I'll be.
I can
Maybe
totally
I'll
see
be
that.
DK, the friendly neighborhood librarian.
Yes.
Next.
I could totally see that. And Juneteenth is coming up very soon. Is there anything that's kind of on your mind in terms of like what you all are growing at the Grow NYC NYCHA Housing Gardens, or with New Roots, or any programming you want to shout out?
Sure. So at Gardens at NYCHA and at New Roots, we are growing culturally relevant food year round. So Juneteenth is a wonderful celebration, but it's not a one-off for us. It is every day.
Mm-hmm.
We are acknowledging and celebrating our ancestors and the contributions of the diaspora in food and agriculture every day. So for us, you will always see pepper varieties. You will always see efishoko. You will always see callaloo. What you might not always see is cotton and rice, but we are very intentional about incorporating those aspects as well. We're always intentional about our storytelling and our story sharing. What I am excited about is to be spreading those things in non-traditional spaces that maybe we haven't always seen them in or heard those stories in. So for Juneteenth, now that it is a federal holiday, I'm very excited to be saying, actually, it's not business as usual. We're going to do this now.
Yeah.
And we're going to have those uncomfortable conversations that are uncomfortable, but they're necessary, and that we can grow past and that we can all learn from.
Oh, I'm excited to check it all out.
Me too.
It's going to be amazing.
Me too. You're always welcome.
Thank you.
And I welcome your expertise.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Arvelyn, as an icon in the community yourself,
Thank you.
as a known herbalist that I've always admired and respected, I can't wait to welcome you to the spaces.
I can't wait either. It's going to
Thank
be so
you.
good.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And where can people find you
Thank
on the
you.
internet?
Thank you. Everyone can find me on Instagram at DK New Yorker.
Okay.
Everyone can find me at Grow NYC at DKINARD at grownyc.org. And everyone can just see me on the street and say, hello, DK, the friendly neighborhood gardener. But proceed with caution, because I will talk you to death and we will just talk about trees and herbs and birds and food and recipes.
Well, I'm so glad to have you on Plants Liberation.
Thank you.
And you're such an important member
Thank
of
you.
the New York City growing community.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Thank you for having me, Arvelyn. It's an honor and a pleasure.